And there we go. Welcome back to another episode, my lords, ladies and gentlemen. I hope today finds you well and that all of your learning activities are being well taken care of. On the menu for today, we're going to be looking at the nudge theory, right? Most popularized from the book by Thaler and Sunstein. And it is a term that connects to decision architecture at large, right? And how the notion of tiny little nudges, tiny little prompts towards the end game is often a more coercive way on one side or a more structured way to understand the decision that you're about to make on the other, depending upon who holds the keys for the particular scenario. There, one thing might be in supermarkets, placing fruit at an eye level. That's one that goes on, or in the modern day workforce, being automatically signed up to a pension, but with the option to sign out if it is that you want to, right? These are the common everyday occurrences of nudges that go on. What about you, Bob? What are you bringing to the nudge world today?
Well, I wrote a post about this last week on LinkedIn. To me, nudges was one of those things, a bit like micro expressions that suddenly become very sexy and everyone's doing them. And as with most things, including micro expressions, they are seen to not be as effective in they're on their own as people thought they were. They're great as part of a strategy, and being in the business we're in, we use them all the time in one way or another.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
people, like any of these new ideas that come out, people go overboard on them, thinking that they're going to be the answer to everything. And unfortunately for this particular area, um, it would have probably lasted a bit longer if we hadn't have had the pandemic, because during the pandemic, it had very limited effect.
yeah.
It did have an effect, and the UK government went overboard with it with the behavioural insights team. But when you look back on it in retrospect, it had some effect, but not the effect that you could say, "Oh, we hit that out of the park."
Well, yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mentioned to you offhand earlier, but I found the article. It was one in the Financial
Mm,
Times, and the question on the table was essentially, can we nudge our way to more growth? And
mm.
I think the guy's name is David Halpern or David Halpert,
That's
or
the guy, yeah.
yeah,
That's the
yes,
behavioural insights team,
that's
yeah.
the guy. The was looking at the differing kinds of nudges that could be carried out to try and encourage growth throughout the
Mm,
Commonwealth. And it would be things like a specific tax reminder in one area would work really well, but that same tax reminder in another county or another part of the UK would fall
mm,
on collective deaf ears. And
mm.
that's kind of where the notion of nudging as a singular tool is, well, it falls flat. It's
Yeah,
the nudge itself. If you're going to just do a nudge, it needs to be well, essentially like a massive system that presents itself as a small nudge to account for potential
yeah,
nuances in the different kinds of communication that goes on, even in different counties, different regions of the UK. As singular as the accent changes are, the
mm.
behavioral changes are there too, the thinking changes are there too, the interactional changes are there too. It would be analogous to somebody from New York meeting somebody from the Midwest, right? You might be able to
Yeah,
bond over a couple of things, but your thinking patterns and your differing kinds of
yeah,
styles of interactivity would be worlds apart. These are
yeah.
the kinds of things that we're looking at.
Yeah, I think that long before we had the term nudges, this was still something that was around. Behavioral economics is where it come from. But even before that, I mean, these things don't just get thought up by someone. They look at human behavior and they look at what we do.
Mm.
And we nudge people all the time. We put little tags on in the comments to make them agree with us.
Mm.
We do it all the time, and this is just a more formulated way of that. I first come across it, not even knowing what it was, when I visited Amsterdam for a meeting, and noticed a fly on the urinal in the men's toilets, and thought, "What's that there for?" Little did I know that it's been put there for you to aim at when you're going to the toilet, and so that was one of the very first ones that I saw, and some of it was very significant in my
Yeah.
mind. And when you think of the pandemic, Ben, what's the messaging that you got from the government that sticks in your mind?
Those three steps, wasn't it? Hands, face, space, and
Yeah,
those types of things that stuck out. And make sure that you stand on your doorstep and clap for the NHS.
yeah,
These singular little things that contribute to
yeah,
like a behavioural zeitgeist almost.
yeah.
Those stick out readily for me.
You know, the one that sticks in my mind is from that guy Halpern that you mentioned. It doesn't get mentioned a lot. These other ones do, like save the, stay at home,
Yeah.
save the NHS. But the one that he said that I thought was really brilliant, he said behaviour is contagious.
Oh,
And
that's
I thought that
nice.
was really brilliant, but
That's nice.
it wasn't simple enough, I don't think, for most people to sort of click in their mind what it actually meant. But he
Yeah.
said it at least three times that I know, that in when he was actually speaking. And I think that's a brilliant thing. Behavior is contagious.
Behavior is contagious. Wow. I mean, that's yeah. What a wonderful sentiment. We often talk about like happiness being contagious, or the infectious notion of laughter,
Mm,
these types of things, but specifically to the time as well. What an interesting concept. The one that popped into my head outside of that when you mentioned the urinals in Amsterdam was the bins that you see at McDonald's. They've now
yeah,
got an alcove with like an archery uh,
yeah,
board on to aim for the bullseye, so you can encourage to put your litter away. I thought these kinds of things are particularly nice. There is something that we hinted at with the notion of nudging in that of scale, right? And when you
yes,
I've got it here. Small scale nudges that work in trials don't always translate when applied to millions of people. If a nudge only works for 30% of the population, is it really worth rolling out nationwide? And then the notion of it that we again saw during COVID was the behavioral fatigue, right? When the
yes,
fatigue towards a situation and or an idea or a behavior is almost force fed down you, there is a kind of um, barrier that comes up,
yeah,
much in the same way that people joke about veganism, right? I'm referencing it as the joke now. Whenever somebody mentions vegan, the gut reaction is most people go, "All right," like, and have those kind of expectations because of the
yeah,
fatigue that went on in that
yeah.
particular way. What kind of nudges, if any, have you seen fail?
Well, I think the behavioural fatigue during the pandemic, if we take that, and the thing that really worked against them in the end was the fear-based nudges. And that worked for a while, the fear, and it worked well because we was having, if you remember back, we had those 6 o'clock briefings where all the figures were brought up. And I think they worked for a while, but then people got immune to them, like they would to all sorts of things. And I think that's the thing with nudges, is they're very short-termist, and you have
Yeah.
to keep imagining new ways, a bit like a supermarket, as they keep changing the shelves to keep you interested. And
Mm.
I think the pandemic, because it went on for so long, it started to wane significantly, and especially when the papers started printing about behaviour that was outside of it.
Yeah.
Then, because whether we, yeah, I think it's you have to accept that nudges are system one thinking. They're not system
Yeah.
two thinking. They're
Yeah.
based on system one thinking, emotional, immediate, and so anything of that nature wears off.
Mm.
Just like you can sell a car.
Mm.
using system one thinking and
Mm.
and nudging, but then you'll get buyer remorse.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, to that end, the thing that always kind of cracked me up about nudges, I mean, like all things, I'd rather know about it and have it as a tool for if it's needed. But it was this idea of the average human, the average Brit,
Mm.
or the average. What is that? Like, it's a
Well,
term that's thrown around, isn't it? But like, what
yeah,
is the average Brit? Because surely that is like several body language elements of saying, well, they've crossed their arms, therefore this.
yeah,
The average Brit it negates a lot of nuance, no?
yeah, exactly. And I think there is a school of thought that would say that we are being nudged so much all the time. It's almost become part of our culture, not just in the UK, but everywhere. Every time you go online, you get those nudges. Four people looking at this item now. And through like things like choice architecture, we're exposed to this so often that we've probably become immune to it to a certain extent. But the pandemic was different because it was in your face all the
Mm,
time.
yeah,
Whereas in normal life, it is just part of life and
yeah,
we don't notice it.
yeah,
And I, because I'm aware of it and I just laugh when I see it because I know what they're doing, it's reminders you get and, opt in rather than opt out and all this
yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah.
And it does work. I mean, I think the behavioural insights team did have one notable success, which they more or less was their standard for everything after that, that they worked off of that. The publicity from that was changing the declaration of
Mm,
honesty from the bottom of a form to the top of a form. Now, that's something that's been done for years with the police. Their declaration in the police statement is always at the top, not the bottom. But just that mere change, when people are thinking, using system two thinking about being honest, they're more likely to do that than if they're using emotion-based decision making and then have to sign a declaration at the bottom. Because once you've done it, you've done it.
absolutely.
So, so that was a success, but they have had some really notable failures, which involve people using system two thinking basically and thinking, well, why am I doing this? And once you've got that, then it's very difficult for the nudge to work.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. A couple of comments come in from Al Aldridge. I was amazed that I didn't hear the words flu or cold in any media in the first year of the pandemic. It's like it was omitted and those words are rarely heard anymore. It will be another interesting winter. And
Yeah,
Julie says that keto is another one. Keto is
yeah,
another one, you know, and
yeah,
there are elements to that strike me when it comes to the notion of um, ethics and morality within a nudge of
yeah.
sorts. Like I mean, it would depend on the end game in question.
Mm,
I think where this was brought up was it was like libertarian paternalism or something like this. The reference to like the patriarchy and governmental structures and who's doing what and all this type of thing was like, is it more uh, ethically honest to say to the people or the group or the constituents that you are trying to nudge that you are in some kind of a um, behavioral experiment,
yeah.
if you want to think about it that way. I mean, there are certain things that got like anytime a political discussion comes up, if you hear the word immigration nudged on every side, if there is a
Mm,
topic around conspiratorial beliefs of any nature, you might be rigged, might be allow you to be nudged on any side, or these types of things. Is it how do we figure out, as those who are nudging or those who are being nudged, where this notion of of ethical responsibility for nudging anything or anyone lies? It's a difficult question. It's a difficult idea, right?
Yeah, certainly. And I've had this discussion many times with people. This notion that we have free will, does that actually exist? Do we have free will?
Mm.
I mean, that's another subject we could cover in much more detail, but we are nudged so often by so many different sectors that the notion of free will, I think we're all influenced because that's all free of all nudging
Mm.
is covert
Mm.
influence.
Yeah.
And in the jobs that we do, we know all about that. The only difference between us and the guys who nickel your money out your bank account is that we do it for ethical reasons. We do it to build relationships and for people to better understand their others and connect better. But there is no this track for these people and this track for this people. It's all the same techniques, but just used for different outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you see it like in the kind of personalization structure of it. I saw something referenced the other day as influencer gray. Like, no, the color is gray. The
Yeah,
nudge is the connection towards influencer if you want to be, that kind
yeah,
of role on social media, or a literal influencer of whatever it is that's going on. That was one that stuck out, as it struck me that there was just a brazen attempt as a
yeah,
nudge, because it
yeah,
didn't really make sense. But
yeah,
I thought it was funny that the term influencer was in there. It was a composite part of it.
yeah,
The influencer grey idea, but it raises this thing, at least for me, that a nudge doesn't always have to um, start with a behavior. It can start
no,
with an action or an
yeah,
object or a thing or something
yeah,
inanimate that is designed to encourage
yeah,
a behavior, or designed to encourage a particular way of thinking. The one that sticks out in my mind is, and I don't know if this has traveled overseas at all, but in certain shops or supermarkets that are local to me, and most places throughout the UK I've been, there is the sticker, the image of the police officer that's
yeah,
just kind of stuck to the front of the door, and the clear designation is to nudge people into behaving
yeah,
inside said particular store. But the sticker itself is just a sticker,
yeah,
right? What's been your
yeah.
experience of those types of
Well,
nudges?
before we do that, first of all, that I think that has been around for so long. It's a bit like they used to have cat policemen and put them on motorway bridges to make people slow down.
Yeah.
I don't think we're as social. We're not social norms are not like they used to be. And maybe now, if you watch the TV all the time, the social norm is to shoplift, not to not shoplift. And
Yeah.
so they don't work. But I've got a question for you, Ben.
Oh, go on.
What is with your work in the mentalism and all that sort of thing? You must have a favourite one that's really worked for you.
Oh, I do. Your
Oh, it's all right.
cameras.
I'm back. Yeah, I'm back. It came out. I am still here. Can you hear me?
We can still hear you. We can just see a big old black square.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's all right.
I'm turning it back on. Hold on. There you go. It's back on. It
It
came.
is.
It got tangled up. Yeah. So what's been your most productive, or because there's one stick out for you?
Yeah. Usually the nudges in that area are designed to get people comfortable with talking about personal data, right? Those are the kinds of nudges that you
Yeah.
need to be able to do what it is that you do. So my kind of preferential way of doing it is to bring up the topic, include everyone in the language, but focus the detail on my personal data and my personal
Sure.
stuff. It would be things like, um, so obviously we all know how challenging it is to come up with with a pin code that nobody could figure out, and yet we choose numbers that are easy to remember, which means that more often than not we're choosing dates of births, particular years or particular dates that
Mm.
stand out to us as a way of getting by. And I'm watching for,
Yeah,
reactions and responses in the individuals to see if any of that kind of thing landed,
yeah,
or the notion of nudging. Um, it's not necessarily confrontation, but it's nudging a disagreement out of
yeah,
somebody with a polarizing question. You could be like,
yeah,
so obviously we believe in aliens, and then you get the disgruntledness, or the
yeah,
flat out disagreement. And good, I'm glad you brought it up. And these types of almost elicitation nudges
yeah,
in those particular situations have been reliable sources for
yeah,
comfort levels, or well, comfort levels to drop around personal data, but also getting them to bring up their own ideas as
yeah,
well. Those are the kind of little things in that way. It's the notion of always agreeing with someone. Like if you, I don't know, like, what are your opinion on psychics to somebody, and somebody says, oh, I don't believe in it, and you go,
mm,
absolutely, you know what, me neither. Next table, what is your opinion on psychics? Do you know, I'm a big fan of, I'm a big believer, my auntie's a psychic. Me too as well, I love it. There's so much insight we can get in those kinds of scenarios. So there are the combinations of nudging potentially personal connections out of complete strangers, and then supporting them the
yeah,
whole time. Those are the easiest ways to do it, because those kinds of situations were around making friends with strangers immediately.
yeah,
And oftentimes these people are, you know drunk, showing off, the center of attention. They just want to party, they just want to eat their food or do whatever it is. So it's a challenging circumstance to be in, which has translated to the investigation work, the other side of things. If I want to encourage somebody to talk about um, a behavior that they're not supposed to be legally engaging in, it would start with things like, now obviously we've all smoked a joint here and there. Those types of nudging towards
yeah,
comfort are the traditionally opening gambits that have been my go-to when I'm struggling, as a way of lowering uh, lowering confrontation, lowering disagreement,
mm,
lowering resistance.
mm.
Anyway, but much like we've said throughout, it's different for different folks. You know,
Yeah.
different
Mine's
for different
mine is
folks.
completely different. My approach to it. I'm more of asking permission, like I actually did with you before you answered that question. I said, "Is it? Oh, I'll ask you. I've got a question for you. If that's okay."
Yeah,
That is a nudge
total
because
nudge.
it's getting agreement. But also, one that I use a lot is vulnerability. Vulnerability, if I can
Mm.
say it, vulnerability. And I can remember one. When I was working doing penetration testing,
Yeah.
and they had the company I worked for had a female employee who they were a little bit thought might be a bit loose-lipped,
Mm.
and so I engineered to be in the environment with her on a couple of occasions. So straight away, I wasn't a stranger because she'd
Mm.
seen me a couple of times, and during those two times that I had seen her before, I made sure she saw me.
Mm.
And then I used vulnerability. I sat down near her, made a big play of that I had a new phone and I couldn't work it, and just said, "Can you help me? I don't know how to do this. Can you help me?"
Yeah.
And that was the in to start the conversation. So,
Fantastic.
like you say, you can use, it has to be thought through,
Oh yeah.
and the nudges have to be right for that person because having seen her a couple of times, I could see that she was quite a pro-social person,
Mm.
and that it would work with her, and it did. And
Mm.
obviously, I'd done a bit of research on it beforehand.
Of course. Of
So
course.
nudging, and the thing about that is, an important thing is, there's this big push, and I know you're involved in it with Jim, and myself to a certain extent, of interviewing. Why we have to be so careful with interviewing, because it is so easy for the interviewer to be nudging that person towards what they think is the truth
Mhm.
rather than getting the truth from them.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's yeah. I mean, for those of you that want to read up about the failures with interviewing in that way, just look at the read technique.
Yeah,
There was a lot of structural issues with the delivery of that, and did result in the nudging that is, as we know, it is a unique situational bind to be in. I'm just going to mention these couple of comments here that have come in.
mm,
Um, Al Aldridge says, a great topic. I've never really heard of the nudge, and now I'm thinking that the prescribed language heard in Canada was get the vaccine to help others. Is it
that's
safe
it.
to is it safe to label that a guilt nudge? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it is.
yeah.
And Mr. Jane says, in the future, I would like to hear more about this topic. I really like the nudge theory and the idea that behavior is contagious.
Yeah, I think it's we shouldn't over, and I think the whole sort of proposition we're putting here in is that nudging, like everything, is just part of
Mm,
behavioral analysis. You can tell when someone's trying to nudge you, but I
mm,
certainly can. And you can notice that. You can notice when you're trying to be nudged uh, by just the choice architecture and everything you get when you go online.
mm,
But just remember that it's just part and it doesn't work on its own. And it is always part of a bigger picture.
mm. Like, if you're going to an event and on the invite it says black tie, that is a nudge, but it doesn't
Mm,
work without the location, everyone
mm,
else getting that address,
yeah,
the food, the waiters, the conversation, the price. It doesn't work without everything else
yeah,
to elicit those kinds of responses that one would almost expect to see at a black tie event. Like you
yeah.
wouldn't see anybody coming
One
in
one
in a
other
black pair of
thing is
shorts.
there is a video, and people can see it online, of Derren Brown, who uses this type of techniques for entertainment value a lot. And there's an episode where he gets three people to commit an armed robbery.
Mm,
And one of the things that they use in that was Nike.
mm,
They're exposed for, because you can nudge people and keep nudging them until it becomes habit.
mm,
And they nudge these people with the swoosh, and
mm.
underneath it, just do it. And
Yeah,
that's what these people saw on a massive billboard just before they were robbing the van. If you believe it, and I do tend to believe that it was right,
yeah.
that you could, and in a way, that type of nudging where you do it continually for an outcome is probably the nearest you can get to conscious hypnosis, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Nudges have a link, at least linguistically, to the covert hypnosis kind of
Yeah,
thing. And Derren Brown's The Heist, it's called.
that's it.
The
That's it.
Heist. It was a great show. It was a great show, and
Yeah,
a lot of those, well, a lot of performance pieces of any kind. When you think about it, they are nudges. Like,
yes,
if you're a fan of horror movies, is it just as scary to see Boo the serial killer jump out, or is it more scary to hear a noise in a bush, or see that a knife's missing, or where's this person gone, or what's the strange noise outside? Jaws is a fantastic example of that. The
mm,
whole the whole shooting the shooting of the film from underneath, so that every time you see that shot from
yeah,
underneath, you're, oh God, and the nudge brings you closer and closer towards the edge of your seat. The same with anything. The continual prompts towards a specific way of thinking, or feeling, or acting. This is the nudge theory in
yeah,
action. It is the notion that behaviors, or rather behavioral change, can't be forced. It is more prudent and longer lasting if it is shaped, or, pun very much intended, nudged.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, what final thoughts do you want to leave them with today?
Well, I think it's probably from choice architecture because that's one of my favourite parts of this thing they call nudging, which is giving people options. Never give them two options because that's binary. It's either yes or no. Give them a third option, and then people think they've got choice, although you've actually stacked it in a way that the choice is being made for them. And it works really well. Used to do it a lot even before this was a thing with my children. Not you are going to do your homework. You can do your homework now. You can do it before tea, or you can do it after tea.
Yeah,
But admit the words because you don't want to be confrontational, but you will be doing it. Just leave those words out. Just give them three options, and that's the essence of choice architecture is that you think that they've got free will and they're making it themselves, but you've put parameters on it for them. So that's my final thought.
love that. Love that. For me, it would be uh, build awareness of the nudges you give, but the nudges that are used on you. Because
Yeah.
in terms of behavioral analysis, both are illuminating. Both
Mm.
of them are.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, folks, we'll love you and leave you for today. As always, if you've got anything out of it, we'd love to hear from you in the comment section of whatever channel you're watching or listening to this on. If you haven't subscribed to the channels already, this is your time to do so. Click on the bell so you get notified when each new episode drops, and that is a small gift to us that allows us to keep bringing these episodes to you. And so, yeah, have a wonderful Friday, and we'll see you again next week for another behavioral intelligence discussion. All right, guys, take it easy.
Bye.